Donald Trump is getting called out for making false and misleading claims about the ethnicity of his 2024 opponent, Kamala Harris. In front of a group of black journalists, Trump was asked about how some in his party have attacked Harris, derisively calling her a DEI hire, bringing this response.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Those remarks stirring up a firestorm of criticism, but Trump allies like vice presidential hopeful J.D. Vance quickly rallying to his side, even doubling down on the comments in some ways.
Kamala Harris is a phony who caters to whatever audience is in front of her. I don't know if you saw this, but earlier this week, look up the clip. She went down to Georgia and started talking with a fake Southern accent.
Vice President Harris herself is dismissing Trump's newest claims, calling it the same old show.
Donald Trump spoke at the annual meeting of the National Association of Black Journalists. And it was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The American people deserve better.
Potential vice presidential picks like Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona were also quick to call out Trump for those comments.
This is the reaction of a desperate and scared old man. He's afraid. He's probably afraid to debate her. He's certainly afraid to lose an election to her in November.
Joining me now to discuss all of this, Tolu Olorunnipa. Let's get it right, Jess. White House Bureau Chief for the Washington Post, Mike Dubke, former communications director for the Trump White House, and Kate Bedingfield, a former communications director for the Biden White House. Good morning to all of you. How's everybody doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Watching all of that, we have plenty to talk about today. Mike, let's start first with you.
Of course.
Sorry, we got it. But we're watching all of this, and people are starting to comment. Look, this is almost like birtherism 2.0 in a way, making questions about where she comes from, trying to other her. What do you think he's getting at in these remarks?
I think what he's getting at, or where the campaign is right now, is they've had a week of this Harris mania that's been going on, and Donald Trump's trying to get back into the conversation. One of the ways he knows to get back into the conversation is to say things that are going to be picked up on cable news, and especially saying things in front of a black journalist audience that are going to be picked up and make news. So I think part of this is really getting back in front of the cameras and being relevant to the campaign again after the news media has shifted focus. He had a pretty good month of June, July, and then we had the switch in candidates, and he took a back seat. Now I think he's trying to get back into the driver's lane.
And Kate, after the assassination attempt during the RNC, all the promises of a changed man.
Yes.
All the promises of he really has been changed, and he's not the same man, and he's all for unity.
The new Trump.
Is this the new Trump?
This is the same old Trump. This is the only Trump. This is the only Trump there is. You know, I thought that Vice President Harris's response here was really pitch perfect in a couple ways. One, she made the response about the American people, right? Less about herself and more about, you know, America deserves better than this. You know, I thought she also approached it, she called it out directly, but she, I think, has been smart, and I'm watching her campaign and the surrogates go out, and I think they're being smart about not taking the bait here. I mean, kind of to Mike's point, this is what Trump does, right? He tries to be incendiary. He tries to draw the conversation back to him. And I think by, you know, by not letting these kinds of things go unchallenged, but by not suddenly reorienting your entire message into like high outrage about this, they're not playing into his hands in there. And I think that's smart. And I think we're seeing from her just generally a sense of, you know, the kind of happy warrior sort of joy that I think is part of why she's connecting so directly with people right now, because people are so hungry for that. Our politics have been so divisive, so ugly, you know, since Donald Trump came down that escalator almost a decade ago. And so I just think the way she's navigating this so far is really, really smart.
Yeah, and to that point, it is, if you kind of back up and go to Hillary Clinton in 2016, trying to find the right line of attack against Donald Trump. Even President Joe Biden had his own way and kind of evolved beyond that. And now it's like we've kind of evolved into how Kamala Harris is going to deal with it. And to Kate's point, it is a little bit different than we've seen. It's not hair on fire, outrage, you know, it's kind of them, and it's about her turning it back to the American people.
Yeah, it's also the context of this election, which is wild and crazy and different from any election that we've had in the past. She has less than 100 days to introduce herself to the country, to make her argument about why she should be president. If she spends 50% of that time or 75% of that time responding to Donald Trump's antics, she will never have an opportunity to tell people why she should be president. We have to remember that a lot of what Trump is trying to do is to otherize her, like he did with Hillary Clinton, tried to talk about why she shouldn't be president, why people should be uncomfortable with the idea of having a woman president, having a black woman president, having someone that has South Asian heritage as president. And he's trying to remind people about that because we've never had it before. He's done it in the past. He even did it with President Obama and tried to question his qualifications for the presidency, saying things like someone should look into that. That's what he said yesterday. I think it's very clear that he's trying to appeal to the people that are uncomfortable with Kamala Harris as president for a number of different reasons, and giving these dog whistles makes it easier for people like that to question their choice, question the enthusiasm around Harris. And so she has to introduce herself without getting sidetracked by those kinds of arguments.
Right. And Mike, to that end, there is now this race to define who Kamala Harris is, both by the Harris campaign and by Donald Trump. And obviously those are very competing narratives.
Right.
How do you reach, because I'm thinking about the voters that are no matter what going to vote for Trump and the voters who are no matter what going to vote for Harris. It's that sliver in the middle. How do you reach them and how do you win?
Honestly, I think you reach them by talking about the issues. That there is failed immigration policy by the Biden-Harris administration. There's failed inflationary policy by the Biden and Harris administration. There's failed, I'll call it Israel policy because I like my three eyes, by the Biden-Harris administration. Talk about the failures of the previous administration and define the fact that, you know, the vice president was a lightly regarded vice president. I don't mean that derisively, but she has become the savior of the Democratic Party, I think because she's not Joe Biden, not because she's Kamala Harris. And there's a big difference there. So I think you can define her by painting her with the policy failures of the Biden-Harris administration. That's a better place to start than where the president has gone. But again, that may not be as sexy and interesting as what he did yesterday.
Right, and yeah.
Well, no, I just think the other thing that this shows, in addition to putting on display Trump's racism and willingness to just go to the ugliest and most divisive place, it also shows how thin-skinned he is. I mean, this is clearly, I cannot fathom that his campaign staff sat around with him before this event and said, here's the best and most effective way for you to use this time in front of the National Association of Black Journalists. But because Trump is so thin-skinned and because he feels threatened by what he's seen happen over the last now little over a week, and as he's watched the polls move, and he can also, I'm sure, feel the momentum moving, this is his natural reaction. And it just shows that, yes, there are 95 days left in this campaign, and he is not going to be able to run a disciplined campaign, because there is no disciplined Trump, right? There's only this Trump. And so for the Harris campaign, I think this reinforces for them, we have a plan, stick to our plan, and let the chips fall, because Trump is not going to be able to execute effectively over the next 95 days.
Mm-hmm. And Tolu, just as we're talking about all of this, cable news is talking about all of this, do you think this kind of is digested by a voter who's evaluating these candidates?
I think voters are trying to wade through all of the drama to get to what actually matters to them. I think that's one of the reasons Kamala Harris didn't spend a lot of time defending herself, defending her identity, because she needs to be talking about the issues, in part because voters are looking for issue-based results and issue-based solutions to the challenges, and there are very real challenges in the world right now. There are really major challenges on inflation and on immigration and on the world stage. And these are distractions to a number of voters who are looking for someone to provide actual solutions. And so it does open an opportunity for Kamala Harris to lay out her policy platform. She has not yet done an interview with someone and detailed her policy stances on some of the things that she said in 2020 and 2019 when she was running for the presidency, and the difference between where she was then and where she is now. It does give her an opportunity to lay out her policy platform on actual issues that people are thinking about. Not very many voters are going to be swayed about questions about her identity, and so it does give her an opportunity to do that. We'll wait and see whether or not she takes that opportunity.
It's funny, we keep saying it. Maybe voters care about issues. There's an idea.